Yeah. No, it's not.
There wasn't, there's no meet out there either.
And we're on, right?
There's no meet out there either. Larry, are you there?
Larry, can you hear us? Are you muted?
Larry?
Yes. We're still working on it.
Larry, we can't hear you on your mic. If you could talk a little louder.
Okay, I'm trying to get him hooked up to a
Okay,
earbud thing.
okay, we can hear you.
Yeah. Cause I'm a good projector.
Does everybody have access to documents for this evening, either on SharePoint or everything in the night? Yeah. Sure.
No way.
If you wanna.
What is it you're looking for?
Yeah. Totally.
This?
Yeah, probably what?
Folder.
We care.
So just make sure that you're up close to it so they can hear you when you speak.
All right, I'm good.
I hear ya. So with that, I'm going to call this meeting to order. At 5:35 PM. And welcome everyone. And we have a busy schedule or a busy agenda today, so I would like to start with Kevin Medley, who is working with us on our general plan.
Okay, last meeting, we had the community survey and I got comments from Darlene back, so I'm gonna hand out, or do you all have access to it? Do you need anything to copy?
I believe I put it in here,
I have a paper copy if you need a copy.
and I have a paper copy too.
Okay.
But Kent, would you like that? I would love, if you have that.
Yeah.
I would love a paper copy. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Before we get too far into it, I'm gonna bring you a couple of maps that I've highlighted, something that answers one of the questions of the edits that I made. And I just have two, so you can share. So one of the questions that I removed from the survey, just in the edits, and I'll explain why, was related to, would you like more open space? And the main reason I removed that question is because you can't impose open space on private property. And then you'll see on that, on the highlighted two things that I noted there, there's some nature conservancy land and there's water district land. Those lands are likely to stay vacant, unused, or like with a trail or something like that, some sort of a public purpose as an open space. So, any questions about that? Because there was a question, and I don't have the wording exactly, but the question was, would you like to see more open space?
And my only comment is on the nature conservancy land, that's on both sides of the river.
Yeah, I just highlighted, and it is, you can see it goes down on both sides of the river. The river cuts through there.
Here.
Yeah.
I had a question about, I didn't see anything in here that addresses affordable housing. Do we wanna include a question about affordable housing? I mean, I know that's a big push by the state,
Right.
so,
And there was some stuff, and I thought that we had some housing questions, let me go through it real quickly here.
it's one of the options, what type of housing.
Right.
See, duplexes, triplexes.
Under the housing survey on page 4, is that where?
Okay,
I'm
so
looking back
that,
and forth between.
okay, so that's just kind of integrated into that.
Right,
That's
and-
assuming it's gonna be affordable. So instead of low
In a-
income, can we?
You can ask a question related to that, and so, and there was a comment earlier that I recall. So would you like, to have a question that would specifically ask the town about affordable housing? That being said, duplexes, cottages, I don't know if you're zoning, I know you've been adjusting your zoning code, if you're allowing ADUs. Those sorts of things are generally looked at as affordable housing.
Okay.
So affordable housing, to meet the state definition, requires that the income, it addresses the income level where they're under 30%, they're basically in a poverty setting, and they could afford to get in that housing. And there are communities within this area, this region, that qualify as a community for those types of funds, and I'm not sure about Virgin.
That's a whole separate category where
Right.
like, not just anybody could buy that, you have to be in that income.
Right.
Right.
But that being said, funding for those projects goes to communities that are already qualified under that.
And they're larger communities, is my understanding.
Well, yeah, I don't know that Virgin, I could check into it, but I don't know that Virgin will qualify. Because you have quite a few that have, substantial income. And generally there's a pocket or a group of people within a community that are living in, or not finding a place to live, that earn very little.
And then, one of the questions that I had put on the combined question doc, that I really like this question about,
Okay.
people's vision for Virgin 10, 20 years from now.
Mhm.
You know, a small rural community with a few businesses, a growing, a growing, residential community with lots of business, different kind of categories. I think that's a value, that question.
Okay, and I just kind of combined those so we can expand that second or the first question. Because there was this question, and then it was talking 10 or 20 years down the road.
Right.
We could expand that question, when you think the version, or it still reflects. And then the second question there is, is your vision of Virgin in the next 10 to 20?
Oh, okay, that's exactly what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah,
So
Yeah. So that is there.
it wasn't under, that's exactly what I meant, okay, and. What about addressing commercial businesses and where residents would like to see commercial businesses? Obviously, along SR9, up the Collab Road.
Right. So right now, as we craft that question, looking at the zoning map, the current zoning map, the majority of the commercial is along the highway. Which doesn't lend itself to creating a commercial environment that people want to stop at. If commercial is spread out over several miles, they want to be able to stop and have things right by. They don't have to get in their car and then drive another mile down the road to do something else. So that being said, changing someone's zoning is something that could be viewed as a taking. So if it's already zoned for commercial, then that's something that you need to consider as. But certainly the question can be asked and get that input. Would you like to see it in a note? Would you, and we can put that in there, so. Okay, and I think you have that, and I probably, took it out, so. We can put that back in,
Okay,
all right?
and that's everything I have on. Yeah,
I like something you just said, Kevin, which I was interested in the fact that it's easy to get spread out here in our town. As I guess it is in the other towns to some extent too. There's the main drag. And we think about commercial, and I think about if it's all just spread, a mile up and down the highway. That doesn't seem ideal, because it's we look at Springdale, the focus. It's there, it's all up and down the highway, but it's focused in a certain block or two
Mhm.
as you get closer to the park. And I wonder what our vision is as to what we think, how we're gonna be affected by the park. Or are we gonna be more residential? Do we wanna be more residential? And how do we ask the citizens these questions?
I think one of the ways we're gonna address the spread outness is the cottage. Neighborhood commercial. Ordinance. That will have those clustering, but Springdale is all on 9. I just have. It's all on 9 and,
And I will say this, the acreage that is on commercial along 9 could lend itself to very easily to something that is more than just one commercial function on a lot. It could become a center of some sort. Though I would shy away from anything that's a strip type, commercial type.
And maybe there's no choice. Maybe in small communities with a highway, a state highway through the middle, whether it's to a national park or whatever, it starts out as rural, agricultural, with the road through the middle of it. And it's over time that you see the axillaries kind of fill in, but I think generally they're residential, rural or residential, rural residential. And then there's a little bit of axillary commercial, but it's not so much for visitors, but driving through. Talking about Panguitch, or we're talking about Moab, I mean, it's pretty similar to what we have here.
Moab is.
Well,
spread out more.
When I'm talking about what we might look like something,
Right,
and there's a main highway through town.
right. Larry, do you have any thoughts you would like to add on the topic of our general plan survey?
No, I like what I see so far, so I'm excited to get it out.
Speaking of which, what are the next steps?
Okay, the next step is, we finalize this as the planning commission. Get the town councils nod saying, yeah, we like this, we want to go forward, and then we get it circulated. Once it's circulated, I would suggest that it be available for a period of time. Right? But with a cutoff date, because you don't want to just have people open-ended.
Is 2 weeks an adequate period of time, or would you suggest a month?
Whatever you're comfortable with, 2 weeks. Some communities only do it the day of their open house. When they have an open house initially, but most communities do like 2 or 3 weeks or even a month, just depending on, like one community issued it in early August. Well, that's summer vacation, so they extended it beyond Labor Day, the second weekend of September.
And, would it look like this? You had mentioned Qualtrics, I believe.
Right, and once we're finalized, then I'll get with Roger and see if we can get it on Qualtrics. He's the one who's the master of that. It's something that I don't know anything about.
What is Qualtrics?
It's a survey, you put in a QR code and it takes you to the survey.
I see.
So it's an electronic way of doing the survey rather than a paper copy.
And we would probably do both.
Right.
Have some available.
Sure.
And with Qualtrics, I think you can have. Because our concern about digital was, how do I know somebody isn't repeatedly filling this in?
Right. And I'm not sure how they set it up. My guess is that it's based on the, each computer has its own unique identity, either that or some other way of identifying that it's coming from a different source rather than,
Well, I guess if two household members, use the same computer and the same email, they can pick up a paper copy at the town hall.
or it may be able to be said, I'll check with Roger, that you could get 2 surveys from that site, from that computer, however you would feel comfortable.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's possible, it's just something I can figure.
Okay,
So,
And I would tend to lean towards 3 weeks. I think 2 weeks is,
3 weeks.
I don't think 2 weeks is enough, and I think a month is too long, so.
Larry, do you have any thoughts of the time of open survey?
I think, in my mind, if I'm giving too much time, I'm gonna put it somewhere and forget about it. I would say, make it so that it seems urgent and you gotta do it now to some extent, but enough time for everybody to get a chance.
we can just hand it out with a big, at the top of the survey with due by, in bold,
Right.
so that they know that they have to have it done by then, it's not hidden anywhere.
Do they mail it back or do they turn it into Crystal and?
Most people will want to turn it in, but if you want to receive it at the town offices, that's okay. However you want to get it.
Do you
So
recommend,
does that come back to you, that survey?
I will put it all together in a summary.
I see, so that does come back to you, basically.
Welcome's here, and then I get it and put it together. And then you
and
have the original copies.
do you require that, they submit their email and name?
Generally, unless you want to know, which you might not get as many responses if it's not anonymous. But no, I don't want to know that.
Okay, and how long do you think, so any additional questions, commissioners? Larry, I hope you can hear me. Get them to Kevin by a week from today. Today is the 16th, so that would be October 23rd. And then if you can keep us posted as to where you are in your process once.
Yeah, I will send it back with edits and have Crystal get it out to you and see if I hear anything back from you after.
Well, honestly, if this went out as is, I would not be unhappy.
Oh, I did have one question. One of the things, somebody commented that they wanted the under 18 taken off there as survey participants.
Yeah.
I would just, it's eye-opening if you do get kids within the community to respond. They offer a fresh perspective. And they're gonna live here for a long time if they end up living in the community.
Most of the people all the people I've spoken with about that topic have all said, no, you should be voting age or older.
Okay, I'll take them.
I would go with Kevin. I can see where sometimes we let kids involved in something like, it's more like a voting issue. And it gets distorted somehow, in my opinion. I can see kids giving some ideas of what they're enthused about, what's important to them. But
Unless their parents tell them how to fill out the survey.
the parents, are filling it out, putting their name on it or something, and that's kind of what I say is the bad part of inviting it.
Yeah, you do get more weight from a single household.
So-
if they do
so
that. So I can
18
see
or
both
older.
ways.
is what you prefer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
But we go, yes, Crystal?
If you are looking to get this out with the water bills. And mail it out as water bills,
You have to get town approval. So probably December's one ago.
you want to go out that far?
About November's, end of November.
That would be December, I mean, November's water bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
If we're looking to get it out with November's water bills. To get printed, how many pages are we looking at?
it's 4 pages off.
So it could be, you know, a front and back,
Mhm.
kind of thing. We could get it printed out with them, but it would be, I would need it. Or I could get it mailed out separately, because I have a mailing list that we've done before. I would need that by. Let's see, I'm looking at November schedule, sorry. I would need it before, by like the 29th. I'm doing water bills on the 29th.
Of October, we're into November.
I'm doing water bills on October 29th is the date that I'm doing water bills.
Do they go out of the first part of the month?
I'm sending them out on the 29th to the printer.
I don't see an issue with it going
Great.
into November, or what, how do you wanna work it out?
So they'll be out in people's boxes by the first.
Great.
So
And
you guys can approve it, get it to me.
so when will you get, if we get everything to you by the 23rd? If you have nothing to get to Kevin, please let me know, so that
We can just move forward.
we can just
if
move
you-
forward. So do you have anything you want to add? Larry, do you have anything you want to add?
No. I like what we got.
Okay, Val has.
I just have a question about approval from the town. Does that have to be done in the town council meeting?
However the town feels comfortable.
Crystal? Does the town council approval of this have to take place in a town council meeting?
Depends on what they would be comfortable with. Do they want it? It's not a binding document, it's just a survey that, you know.
Do you prefer it to be?
I prefer that they just are aware and they're comfortable with it, and then however you get that back.
I can we can do an individual,
That's
approval
what
of it being mailed out. Mayor can do an individual phone call saying, is this okay, if we're gonna mail this out, this is their step, and she can do it that way. And that is legal to do.
Okay,
Okay.
Can't do
that's
that.
great.
I just think that's better in the interest of time.
So,
Yeah,
would you have any other questions?
because it's not a vote, it's not a vote, like you said, it's not a legal, like, document or
Right.
anything like that, it's simply a survey.
So, if nobody has questions to add, Kevin, you clarified my question about land use. So will these questions be taken out of categories and just interspersed?
I can do however you like, if you just like them mix so they're random.
Because otherwise, I don't see how land use is. If every other category.
If there was the question about commercial,
Mhm.
so do you want me to hurry and craft something and email it, get it out to you? So you're
Yeah.
comfortable with that?
Yeah,
Is there any other land use that you want to address?
Are you just saying you want the question, my understanding, that you just want the questions random or not in sections?
well, I don't, here's my hesitancy. Some categories have a huge amount of questions
Mhm,
and some a few.
mhm.
And when I create, if all topics are equal, should those questions be balanced as well? And you could say, you're crazy, they're all interspersed. Well, if they're all interspersed, why have categories?
Well, and I will say this about, with land use, is you have a zoning map that already dictates what land uses can be done currently. So part of those questions have been answered by that. So from that perspective, usually as you go forward at this point, once you have a zoning map in place, My experience is that there's not a lot of adjustments to the actual boundaries that you designate for different.
Well, it's not
land
just boundaries, it's how you're going to use the land.
uses. Okay,
So like housing would be a land use,
Right.
anything that we cover, housing, right?
public facilities.
So like housing survey, land use housing survey questions, it's just like, I don't want such an important thing. Am I crazy? I mean,
I know, I
disagree with
I'm
me.
hearing you, I don't know whether it's easier for people to know the categories, so they can focus on that particular use. Rather than jumping around from
Okay,
use to, that's just, I'm just throwing that out.
well, I'll go with majority in that, that's my concern.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, besides housing, did you have,
Well, housing, I mean, even like how we use lands, we are certainly going to make land use ordinances on, pedestrian paths and bike trails and walking trails, that land use, correct? Dark skies, stormwater, viewscapes, those are all things that we have traffic ordinances on. Housing ordinances, that would come to us. We're doing a subdivision, or we're looking at neighborhood commercial. I don't know how much we have to do with public services questions, but I think those are important as well.
And don't forget, there's, people love to make comments.
Yes, and I think comments there should be, the only thing on there should the amount of code enforcement be any other thoughts? Do we need to include something on our newly acquired building and open space, similar to the, it could be the exact same questions that were asked? Or should I, Crystal, the questions, the survey you got that the town sent out? I forgot the name of that new committee. Community Development Committee?
Yeah, community development,
Are those answered in that survey?
yes, well, I mean, we have some, there's what, 15, just 15 people.
Do you think it would be benefit to repeat them here? They
for
were,
what?
they were like, what uses would you like to see in the new town hall?
Yes.
And in the undeveloped land? Across from it.
I'm trying to think of general plan. As opposed, is that part of the general plan, what we use that building for?
I think it is useful information because it will bring the community development of town and get more people's opinions on how to use it.
How they want to
Because it
see
can
it
be-
to move forward.
To be incubator ideas for small businesses or whatever people, however they might see, to be able to use that space to.
What do you
push them.
I think it would be awesome. I think.
So
just
can you
including
shoot
them.
those questions to me,
I believe everyone has them in their government email,
in their government email, the survey?
the survey, yes,
Okay.
and the survey and the answers of the survey, everything.
Oh, in that
I have,
search?
you have everything that I have eyes on, you also can have eyes on.
So if you want them included here, could you email them to me and I'll incorporate them in the question?
And you'd be willing to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that would be the only addition.
Okay,
So I think we can get this done before the 23rd.
Okay.
What do you think?
yeah,
Okay,
I will, if you can give me in the next few days, I'll have it back to you.
so let's make the 23rd the due date for you to get it back to us.
That's great. I'll have it back before this.
You already have the commission's approval to speak to either Val or I, if you have questions.
Great.
Any other thing on the general plan? Thank you, Kevin.
All right, before I'm done, I just want to hand it out a few more maps.
Absolutely.
It might be helpful to you. So each of you is showing that, because some of the questions were related to floodways.
Thank you. Thanks.
So that's the floodplain information. There's also some information on the first two are floodplains, just to zoom in on the first one. The third map is the age of buildings in the community, just for your information. And, the last one is buildings built, structure built prior to 1978, which can be an issue because of lead paint, just so you're aware.
Thank you. Do we have one of these for Larry?
I'll leave several
Okay,
copies.
great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so the next thing on our items, the update from Riker. He is working on the revisions to the neighborhood commercial. And he's going to go through the next week. As soon as I get them, I'll put them in, that folder on SharePoint.
Okay.
That means it will not go for public hearing next month.
Mhm.
Same thing with the sign ordinance. Because it still has, the sign ordinance still need to go to that other party as well.
Yeah, he's hoping, I talked to Riker on the phone briefly this morning, we had that brief conversation yesterday at the town council meeting. And I talked to Riker on the phone briefly this morning, he asked about the subdivision ordinance and how that went yesterday. I made him aware that it will come back to planning and
And
zoning.
that would be November.
And, he said, okay, once Heath gets that back to me now, so I'm waiting on Heath to give it to me. Riker wanted to look at what Heath's changes were, and it will now go back to you guys for a public hearing
In
in
November.
November.
So you will have control of that document.
Yes, ma'am, yeah. So, that's all, yeah, we know we're working on with that, so hopefully that shouldn't be too much of an issue, it should smoothly go, and I'm believing it will be a public hearing and a vote that same night, just so
We
we can
could-
push it
We
through.
could do that. That was my intent, pushing it at town council.
Yeah,
Because it's just, from my understanding, minor little tweaks.
correct,
As ours were minor little tweaks. We had anticipated doing that anyway.
yeah.
Okay.
So then, with the, sign ordinance that I sent over to Riker, he was, and as you can see, he's gonna look at that, get that over to me, next week as well. And I'm gonna forward it over to our prosecuting attorney to add the fee and penalties to the bottom of that.
Which one is that?
The sign ordinance,
Okay.
so I should have that all ready by next week. And should
But
be
the sign ordinance
sign.
will not go till next December, right?
December,
Oh.
is that what you're pushing for, is December on that
Well,
one?
we were pushing for November, but
Well,
I don't want to make it too crazy.
well, I mean, if he can get it to me and we get it done by next week, then
Well, let's see how it
go,
goes.
yeah,
Because I'd rather get it right.
yeah, for sure.
So,
So, I know we've had several already public hearings on that sign ordinance. You guys worked really hard on it and it's looking pretty good.
does
So,
that need to, well, Heath kind of ran by that one, but I just wondered if my questions to Riker might also be questions for Heath.
you know, we can always. I'm hoping Keith will be at this planning and zoning one
Okay,
now, that's coming up for our.
so
public
let's
hearing.
push it to
So,
December so that,
well, if we have it for a public hearing for November, we can get it on. If it's done, we can have it for a public hearing on.
but if we make changes, don't we have to do a separate public hearing?
If we make changes and Keith decides to make changes.
Yes.
But then we can have, it doesn't hurt to have two public hearings even.
This could be the fourth one.
Yeah. We know this, right? But,
And it's gonna be good.
yeah, it should be perfection, right? So, yeah,
All right,
we're working on both of those with Riker on those, so.
so the really one we want, so neighborhood commercial, I'm probably looking at December. And division of land, we really want that to be November. And, I'm going
You should
to,
have those revisions to me next week, so,
he should,
yeah, Riker's pretty quick.
yeah. And so the commission's permission, I would like to, go to item number 4 right now. Since we have Larry. Larry, are you there?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so we're gonna look at the, ordinance amending chapter 40 and chapter 2. And, have a discussion of that. All right, do any commissioners have any questions or comments for Larry on this ordinance, since he was the writer?
Let me remember what 40 is about.
40 is commercial. So can you refresh our memories? Larry, refresh our memories and give us a recap?
Yes, yes, I can. So this is a live work ordinance, and what we're doing is defining what that means. So there is a change to the script or the definitions, and then there is some parking changes that are different than what normally is required. So it basically just describes what it is. It's a unit that has or a commercial unit that has a residential component. And when I was thinking about it, it was for a single unit. Riker mentioned that there could be multiple residential units per commercial unit. So we did some changes on the parking, and I made the change late at night and sent it to Crystal, but on chapter 40.40D2, it says no parking shall be required for the residential square footage. That should be stricken out because we added 3, which says no parking will be required for residential units providing. And then one of them is there's only one commercial or one residential unit per commercial. And then if there's more, then it defines how we'll set up the parking for multiple residential units. And my idea with this is that it's basically shared parking. If you work at the business, your cars are going to be there anyway during the day, and after work hours, your car will be there because that's where you live. So it seems silly to add additional parking for the residential unit when you're either going to be working or not working. So if you're working, your car's there. If you're not working, your car's there. So it seemed kind of redundant to have additional parking for the residential units. But if you have several residential units, then I can see how that could be a problem. And it's slightly different than what the parking requirements are normally, but because it is a shared use, I think the exception fits.
So my question to Larry was 14.08D says dwelling units needing 2 spaces. And my question is, does this conflict with that? How can we make it not conflict? Because
And I think, I feel like it's, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Larry.
I feel like it's okay for it to conflict because it's not the standard, it's not just commercial and it's not just residential. It's a combined use in the same building. So there isn't double the amount of vehicles there because of the live work component. It's the same vehicles. So having additional parking required seems like it would just create huge parking lots for these units. So I feel like it should be different than what a standard residential parking requirement would be or what a standard commercial parking should be.
Yeah.
And I know the state is really trying to encourage the shared parking. One of the speakers, I guess, story was about how he went to Socorro and all the businesses around there were closed, but they said you couldn't park there if you're eating at the Socorro. But the parking lot for Socorro was packed and they had to park, 2 blocks away, where if they would have just had a shared use agreement with these businesses that were open during the day, then the amount of parking would be greatly reduced, and that's kind of how I feel this fits in. The
Yeah,
uses won't.
I wonder if we should send that question to Riker and or Keith. I wonder if we need to amend either 1408 or this to
Well, there's-
modify that, and then I know Val, you also had a comment.
Yeah, there is, in chapter 16, Larry, the limited commercial habitation section of that. And I'm just wanna make sure that this is gonna square with that and we're not overlapping and confusing the, situation.
And what was that?
In chapter 16,
Do you know what subsection?
1626, it's a limited commercial habitation. Uh, It talks about, light permits for this. It does not address, parking to the extent that you have, but is it redundant? Is it, how do we make this work? I guess is my question, because it's already in our code.
Yeah, I would suggest that you, when you have time, Larry, you look up 16.26 and read it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and
Is
yeah,
this that?
it's basically saying we can do what I've just suggested, but I'll read through it a little
Okay,
more thoroughly after the meeting, and then,
And maybe what
See-
we need to do is just modify the existing
right.
to add the parking that Larry's
yeah,
talking
let's
about.
find the best way to do this, Larry. Okay, and I just hope you hear that, we're not saying no, we just don't want to have conflicts in our
Yeah,
code.
I totally get it, yes.
So let's get creative.
Yes, I will,
Read that thoroughly, so you can come up with
yeah, I'll
all your.
read, yes, and then I'll clean it up and have something by the next meeting. And then maybe,
Something, for public hearing again, or something for us to discuss at our next,
I probably would like,
anything
well,
for
at least
public hearing. I have to submit in its completed form by this Sunday,
by this Sunday.
okay?
Okay, all right, well, I'll have something put together by Sunday then for the public hearing. And I'll get it out to everybody in advance in case there's changes you think we should make before.
And then if you have a
Before
question
Sunday.
for Riker, shoot that through Crystal to
No,
him.
it's not this one.
It's what?
It's not this one. It's the 27th.
That's 17 days? I have extra time this time?
You have an extra week, Mother.
Oh, this makes things so much easier,
I was like thinking, yeah, no, you
because every other month it's been,
have, yes, you have an extra week. This
okay,
week.
so we have a little breathing room, Larry.
You
Awesome.
have,
All right, well,
I just counted, you have till the 27th
The
yeah,
27th,
of October.
so that's a week.
Because your planning and zoning meeting is not until the 13th of November.
Yes. Yeah, the hearing.
Yeah.
It's late next month, but that's correct.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, okay, Larry, so that should give us time to get all our questions run by
Okay,
experts.
yes, so I'll have a list of questions for Riker and then a new document for you guys to review and get input before our deadline.
All right, so everybody write that down, all docs. June,
Charlie
October.
just got a big smile on her face. She's like, yeah, it's the work week.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think it happens once a year.
There's a couple months where that
Yeah,
extra week
yeah,
happens and it's.
Well, Crystal, I'd rather be early than
That's okay.
Music to her ears.
All right, thank you, Larry.
Thank you for moving that up. I still have 12 minutes, so I'll sit in until
So,
until I have to go.
With the commission's permission, while we still have Larry, I would like to discuss item number 5. And that is The one that changes our code about who can approve our chairman and our rules of order and procedure. That's this one. And I wanted to share with you that I did a little research. I did Kanab, Springdale, Rockville, Tokerville, Laverton, and Hurricane. And no other city requires approval of a planning and zoning chair by the town council. One of the cities, Springdale, does require approval of their rules and procedures. I personally don't, I'm against this. I personally am against this. I think the place for the town council to have their input on planning and zoning is the mayor appoints and they approve the commissioners.
Well, that's how I feel also. I mean, we're appointed and approved by town council. So I don't know why they would need extra approval to, say, we elect our chair, we elect our pro tem, and why do we need approval of that? It should be inherent because we've already been approved and appointed.
Well, too, right?
That's kind of how I feel about it. Now, rules and procedures, I think maybe that's something different.
We can talk about that.
Right, but as far as the approval of the chair and the pro tem, I agree with Darlene, I don't think it's, necessary.
I personally would like, and I don't know what other commissioners think, our rules and procedures to as much as is reasonable mirror those of the council. So we have consistency and so that we kind of understand their procedure already and they understand our procedure already. That's just my thought on that. Larry, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I do on this. I think I feel the exact same way you guys do. We are appointed by the mayor and approved by the commission. And if they have appointed us and don't feel like we are qualified to be chair, then maybe we're the wrong people to be on the commission. But the idea is that we are going to vote on and elect a chairman that we as a board have to work with, or as a commission have to work with every month. Why wouldn't it be somebody that we want and can work with, as opposed to having to get council approval? And if we have to get council approval, why don't they just appoint a chairperson and pro tem instead of letting us go through the process of electing somebody and then have them say, no, that's not who we were hoping you were going to vote for. So go back and try again. So yeah, I feel like as a commission, we should be able to pick our own chairman. As far as the rules and procedure, I know that we are serving at the pleasure of the council. And instead of asking us to come up with a set of rules that they may or may not approve, they should just say, here's our rules and here's how you're going to run your meetings. This is the same way we run our meetings. And I don't know why. I thought we had a set of rules that were adopted in 2016 and there would be no reason for us to have to adopt new rules every year, but I could be mistaken. So I think at one of the meetings that came up that we already had a set of rules and procedures and they hadn't expired. But again, I could be mistaken.
There's some things in our current rules and procedures that are no longer in effect, like there is a long section on how a CUP goes to town council. So they do need to be updated and they should every, I would say 4 years, looked at again and revised. That is the normal procedure to do. Kent, do you have any thoughts on this?
Of course, you kind of all touched on them. I'm checking the same boxes you're checking. Trying not to make it personal. And I wish I knew why they thought this was necessary. They already have the opportunity to choose this. I don't know the structure of RFP, but I would vote for this.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Any final comments on that item?
No,
I wonder maybe Val, excuse me, to interrupt, I
Oh,
wonder
it's okay.
maybe if this kind of came about a couple of months ago, when things were kind of in turmoil,
I'm sure.
and kind of, or was it, an effort to have a little bit more help, to help us a little bit more, maybe rather than to constrain us. And I just don't see that as something that would be helpful.
Or necessary.
Yeah.
Right, agreed.
All right, and Larry, if you have a few more minutes, the other thing that we're sending.
Yes.
Should be voting on and sending to town council, there's two more things. The other one is a quick one, and that is that the DRC meeting should be publicly noticed.
Yeah.
And just making this official. The posting of notices is pursuant to Utah's Open and Public Meetings Act. I have no comments to make on that.
And I don't,
I am in support of this.
me too.
Larry, you can.
Where are you on the agenda?
Item number 6. Our design review committee, if they meet, I believe it's the 4th Monday of every month if there's topics to be discussed. And, they were not being noticed, and the public is not allowed to speak at these meetings, but they are a public meeting. You can come and sit and listen. It's more of a collaborative setting for, all the parties involved in.
It's like Ash Creek and Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, and
Power.
all the projects in town
Mhm.
to get together and make sure ordinances are followed and all that. And this ordinance would make sure that those are noticed to the public, so if they wanted to just sit in and listen, they could. They are not recorded, is my understanding, so this would be, if they're a public meeting, but they are public. And you can come and listen, and so this is just going back to making them publicly noticed.
And you have a positive about,
I'm in favor of, as the public being noticed
thank you.
in general.
So you're looking for a
99%.
motion?
What was that, Larry?
Are you looking for a motion on this? Because I
Well, we
agree
don't,
that,
this is
No vote.
discussion, we will vote and motion on our next, what's that date, November 13th. But
okay,
by having the discussion now, we can ask any clarifying questions between then and now, and then those meetings go more smoothly. All right? So do you have any input on this that you'd like to share with us?
and I feel the same way, that they should be publicly noticed, and, you know, if it's a subdivision that's close to your home and you want to find out what they're talking about, it'd be nice to be able to be noticed about it so you can go to the meeting. Even if you can't give any input there, you might still be able to give input later, so yeah, I have no problem with this, and actually think it's,
Yeah, I think it
Necessary.
also removes fear. Because the unknown, you tend to fill the vacuum here, whereas if you can say, oh, they're really doing their job, they're making sure that things are being followed and questions or concerns are being pointed out and addressed.
And that, I think it really helps for transparency.
I think so. I think that helps.
Community feels like we're all.
We're all just
all have the
together.
opportunity to hear voice of the.
I can add a few more clear, because I've been to
Yes.
GRC meetings now.
Mhm.
And the point and reason of having it is for people to come in, pitch their commercial idea. And then it's talked through to be able for us to put together information and present it to you. So it's almost like getting, and making sure that they're presenting themselves. And we're just kind of getting through the garbage and saying, hey, you know, this is never gonna pass, you have to do X, Y, Z before getting into a conversation. So that's my take on it, and understanding
And
it.
that's the
Filtering,
intent
yeah.
actually when it was created. is to
Yeah.
stop, to make sure by the time we see something
Yeah.
that, you know, we're not going to be digging into all the codes and,
We're not wasting your time.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we may find things.
Exactly.
We may
Yeah.
find things, so hence the beauty of, even though it's taking forever to get a sign ordinance done, that the more involved in the process where people are, I think that it ends up being better. All right, the last, 7 is the last thing that we will be voting on in, November. And that is, the zone change that Angelina came in.
Do we have any idea what she wants to do with the property? She just wants the zone change.
I have no questions. on this.
What was your question about?
I just wondered if we had any inkling of what she wanted to do with the property.
Is this
This is,
looking at a different section? Okay.
this is number 7.
Yeah, I haven't heard when she was in here last time.
Yeah, my only,
She didn't have much to say.
she did,
No.
she says on her application, it says she's surrounded by higher resort and would like for any potential use.
Yeah, and looking at this piece of property is, to me, much more applicable than the one we talked about last time.
It also, that's it.
Yeah, so I'm in favor of this change.
You'll have a chance to vote yes next month.
Larry, do you have any thoughts? Did we lose
I-
Larry?
I lost you. Yeah, it's similar to the one we just voted on where they're surrounded by highway resort zoning. I barely heard, but did you say that we couldn't ask what the use was? It's just whether or not it qualified for that zone, but
That's not quite accurate.
He
Yeah,
wasn't
so-
paying attention.
That's
what you were
not
just
quite
saying.
accurate.
Say it one
Yeah.
more time, what you just said.
That's not quite accurate.
No, what you were saying before, he didn't hear your sentence of what you said before.
Oh,
That's why he was saying that. He didn't hear
I
you.
just wondered if you had any thoughts on the
No,
site.
no. Before that, he didn't hear your sentence of what you said in the application of what you read.
Oh, she said it was surrounded by highway resort and would like for any potential use. You're asking me to rewind my brain too
I
bad.
think your microphone's off.
Oh, it's off.
Yeah.
It's dead. I apologize to anybody online who is not looking to hear me.
Thank you for.
Don't trip. No. I'm sorry.
I
You can hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. There, oh, wow.
Now,
That's
screw that, screw. All right, one more time. Is this better, Larry?
Oh, yeah.
Surround, okay, Angelia is said her reason for requesting is it's surrounded by highway resort and would like for any potential use. All right? All right, so. I think you lost there. You're still there?
It's a lag.
Are you that far away, Larry? So Ken, were you able to get on SharePoint?
No,
Larry, do you have anything to say?
again, I'm only hearing part of the conversations, and if two people are talking at the same time, I don't hear either one, so. But I think I understood that we're not voting on this till next month.
Correct.
All right. And I don't think I have any input on this. It seems like it's surrounded by it, it's in the right location. I don't see any geographical or geological issues that might be a concern, so my thought is it probably qualifies.
All right, so, thank you, Larry. So I think on item number 8, the lighting ordinance, we're not, do you have an update? Do you wanna?
Yeah, we give them an update and apology for not getting things to you. Not that I got anything to give to you, other than Paul and I have been working on some of the things that were suggested a month or so ago. And he's gone through them all, made the changes, and then there were some that I was concerned and that were kind of new. And I'm trying to remember what they involved. I think one was, that I was concerned about commercial businesses or developments, let me say developments that, have been done in the last few years, let's say, under, not years, under the current lighting ordinance, that were not compliant to those ordinances, either because somebody's feet wasn't held to the fire or just it got overlooked or whatever. I was concerned about that having the eligibility for the 7-year grandfather, rather than they have a shorter period. Let's say somebody just came in the last 24 months and their lighting ordinance of their commercial development is not compliant with current lighting ordinances. When they have the opportunity to comply to current opportunity, current ordinances, but didn't. Either because you didn't maybe find out whose fault was that it didn't happen, and do we give them 7 months? Their developers can look at ordinances, they can look at the ordinances were there, just because their feet were held to the fire by somebody, then why should we give them that leeway? And so, Paul was working on that and looking at some options that we could maybe consider for that type, and there were a couple others and I can't remember, but.
Well, that might be an issue for our new code enforcement, officer.
Well, that's another thing that I could bring it up. That was another ones that I didn't mention, which is that we need to have prosecution for the code enforcement to be effective. We need to have the document, the writing and everything that allows for prosecution by the attorney, and we have to have penalties for him to be able to prosecute.
And that's what we're working on with both of these ordinances.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ken, you said you were gonna get me this ordinance, send over to Riker, and I have yet to see this ordinance.
And I haven't sent it to you yet, but
Would you
Paul
like
and I are
to
working on it.
Do we have any idea?
Yeah, I hope that, what's today? I mean, today's Wednesday,
Today is the 16th.
Monday.
It's Wednesday.
We okay on Monday?
I'd like to get it over to him and the prosecuting attorney, so at least the prosecuting attorney can just briefly look at it and put the fines, and he's gonna go on.
Tell me a deadline.
Monday.
Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna write down here to Chris,
Arlene's gonna be on you.
and that's the 21st. And so I would imagine we're gonna have a full public hearing of some things that I'm gonna bring up to you now. They're in your folder. I made you aware of them, okay? I am allowed to talk because this is a work meeting. I can bring up things that aren't on the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, but before I do that, we're doing really well, by the way. I'm saving rules and procedures till last, and we may move that one more time because there's a lot in that folder, and I might charge you guys with taking this next month to dig into that. And then in that time, I'm going to reach out to the town council, probably the mayor, and ask for a copy of what they're using. And see if we can, I don't know, our functions are different, so we may not be lockstep, but I would imagine 90% of it is gonna be similar.
More like 70,
More like 100.
more like 70%.
70%. Yeah, so, but it might give us a good starting point because it'll be much easier to create 30%. And I have some resources for us to look at in that folder. I found some from a few different cities. If state code applies, I try to include that. And when I did that, I also looked up information on e-bikes because we got two things going here. We have a permit process that is being developed, right? And I don't think that requires public hearings or it just requires input.
For what?
Does the permit process require a public hearing? It's not in code per se. Now, if we create an ordinance on e-bikes, which we may want to do. I have found Park City has one that is too long, and the trail standards. And one of the things about the trail standards that concerns me, that leans me towards wanting some kind of ordinance on e-bikes is this shared pathway, because according to these standards, they allow class 3. Which have pegs. And can go up to 28 miles an hour. And when we have potentially children, people walking dogs, elderly people walking, like me. I don't know that I want them going that fast. And I know the law says we can limit those throughout our municipality. So even if these, Zion quarter path, or when it happens, we have the right, according to the way I'm reading the code, to limit within the town to class 1 and 2 if we want. I think it behooves us to think about how fast do we want these to go? What are we allowed to do? Because we need, just like with the parking, the bus stop, we need to start thinking and planning now. So we're prepared when it happens. And so it's a good experience for walkers, bikers, and I'm sure skateboarders, probably those little scooters. I don't know about racers, racers is a whole other thing.
Interesting to like think about bikes in general, e-bike, and but like with that shared path, I just think of the Pacific Northwest is where I live, it's where I grew up, and there are bike paths separate from walking paths. And then when
This
they're
is a
building
shared
this,
path.
and then there's no such thing as an e-bike, at any time, they use it as like motorized, those had to go to the road. So it's just interesting when you go through this, like, and as things become more mobile and assisted, they're gonna continue to grow and become
Yeah.
faster, more, and all these things,
Yeah.
so how do we protect the people who are,
Yeah.
but
Like everybody.
it's interesting, like how currently right now, when you go on design,
Yeah.
people on the bikes, you're like, whoa.
This is what actually brought to my attention was, I was actually speaking with our fire department. And they stopped in randomly to our town office and, e-bikes got brought up to me on, a couple months ago. And I asked them, how many accidents do they attend to up in Springdale on e-bikes? And they said, actually, they just attended to a death that happened on an e-bike, and what happened
Ran
was,
into a deer.
ran into a deer, I told you about this, it was a tandem e-bike, and a deer jumped out in front of them. They hit it, the
Wow.
back girl flew over and passed away. You go up there and a lot of people are tourists and they wanna rent the e-bike, and if you're not experienced, it's a 28 miles an hour, it's pretty fast on a bike. And I have seen people, we were Oscars, my husband and I, and a girl was screaming down the neighborhood, you know, the neighborhood that sits up behind Oscars,
Red Rock.
just screaming on the top of her lungs, she didn't know how to stop the bike.
Oh, God.
Thank goodness there was no cars coming, because she went right out on SR nine, and then the little dip, that's what stopped her, she flew off, and the ambulance had to come.
And I
Right.
guarantee you that, there's a lot of accidents that the 911 is not called, they just head to the medical clinic up there.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, when there was-
And just remember in Springdale, it's 25 miles an hour.
Yeah,
And we start at 55, 65,
Yeah.
go down to 45, back up to 55. And that's another reason, I think, for the protection of our town as well.
yeah.
This is something we need to think about. So
I mean, I
let's,
just encourage you guys to go up there and just take a walk even and just see
Oh.
how many you'll see. It's almost frightening as a walker, just to have them be
I
by.
volunteer in the park and I often walk the Paris Trail.
Yeah.
And I've ridden e-bikes, so I know, I can go uphill, and all that. But I do know how they're different, and, when we have a mixed use path, I think is it 12 feet wide?
Yeah.
They're about 12 feet wide, next to Highway 9. And even, the corridor group admits that in parts of Virgin and Rockville, it's gonna be difficult. So I don't know, so I think it's best if we start thinking about this and get a head start.
I would start also thinking about ATVs. So
They are not allowed on the shared use path.
Yeah.
There's,
They're
yeah,
not
I think
allowed.
I wasn't that long,
They're not, I'm sorry, the ATVs are not allowed to.
on a
cross.
shared use path.
Okay.
But
That's why that class 3 is basically a slower motorcycle. And that's why, so, I think I sent you the same
You did.
information, so, and I don't think we can.
Cover it, yeah.
But
highlight,
as far as
study.
e-bikes, if we put them in the classification right now as can make them a conditional, so when somebody comes and applies for a business license and they are an e-bike business, they will have to be forced to come and get
Okay.
conditional
And that would-
use.
And that would be an easy thing to do, but I need help identifying the best part of our current code where to insert that. Because most conditional uses are,
Well, right now in our current code, in commercial and in highway resort, we have non-motorized bikes.
People, recreational.
No, it says non-motorized bikes.
what part of the code is that? Okay, because, that's what we have to research is, for the
Like,
time being, let's
If we
see.
look at like the commercial code, like under commercial, and you see like what
Like
conditions
bikes.
are. Or what's not conditions, I guess you would say.
I did, and I was trying to figure out, and in highway resort, we probably have to put it in there as well.
So. let's see.
So that's where I need help. Where's the best place to put it? So commissioners, anybody who wants to, put their 2
I have a
cents.
question while you guys are looking,
Yeah.
on the county, trails system. Are bicycles. Man-powered
Yes.
bicycles allowed,
Yes. Pedestrians are allowed.
are
E-bikes.
in a city where there's not a trail, and is this considered a trail, or is this our sidewalk?
This is a trail.
Non-motorized bicycle rental.
I will look up the
Yeah.
information about it and email it to you.
I'm thinking, trying to differentiate where these different vehicles go.
No.
Yeah.
I know that bicyclists,
So-
where there's no sidewalk or path,
Exactly.
have to ride on the highway.
So that's where we can put.
In highway.
If you're going up in Zion and you're
Right.
going up the main canyon, you are with vehicles, you are with powered cars and, well, shuttles. So you're forced to be compliant to that. If you're in St. George, you have a bicycle, I think, and there's sidewalks, I don't know the law, but I'm guessing the bicyclists may have to,
So,
be on the road rather than the sidewalk.
they will.
But the
It's not a
power
sidewalk, it's gonna be
scooters,
a section,
4410.
Is that what?
4410?
4410 is a conditional use thing,
Yeah.
is conditional use for highway resort zone, but it's for a non-motorized bicycle.
So the business can only be in the highway resort?
A non-motorized bicycle,
Okay,
so that,
and there's nothing in commercial about that? Okay, so 4410, that's where I saw it too, but I was
but
thinking,
we need to add it in there.
well, we have to decide, do we want it just in highway resort, that's one discussion. Or do we want to add it to commercial as well, there's another discussion.
I think you need to add it in commercial because it would be a small business, and you need to put it in highway resort
Yeah.
too.
Well, we can discuss that as a commission and get input, but if we could do some research on this, and I have a copy of what that path is going to look like. In early November, I'll be going to the collaborative meeting on that, because I represent Virgin on that. And, because here's the other reason why we're gonna need some kind of code, maybe for non-motorized as well, is because one of the early questions I asked is they go, oh, yes, there's only gonna be this speed limit. And my question was, who enforces that? And it's the municipality. So that, just from what I'm learning, that's an argument for having some, now do we want it just on e-bikes or should it be? Because a regular bike can go pretty fast too, especially if you're going downhill. So it should be all vehicles, right? On the path. And I don't know if there's current law out there. I know this is a big thing in parts of the state. I know St. George has some. In fact, there's an event coming up, but I don't
from
know.
a planning standpoint, I
Yeah,
have this fear and insecurity. That we are allowing, the state to tell us what the highway is gonna look like. And we are allowing the county to tell us what the pathway is gonna look like. I assume they're taking some
The right of
right way of the state's right of way to put the pathway in.
the e-bikes.
The trail, I mean, the trail's gonna be on state right of way, right?
Yeah.
So. Once again, I think it's like they're leaving us out. Do you understand what I'm trying to
So
say?
where,
Let's say I'm an old man with a cane. Or I'm a bicyclist, or I'm just walking down. We have this situation where we've never had this to deal with, and now we have a new highway that they're gonna put in.
well, bike.
We're trying to slow that down, we're trying to calm it and do these kinds of things, none of which I really agree with much. And I'm an islands guy, I believe islands slow everybody down and make them.
I meant we should be isolated. So I
Come on.
think this is the start of the discussion.
We should add accessibility to the conversations, just like, that'd be a huge one, especially.
Yeah, and so a public hearing on this topic, I hope would be, we have a lot of people who ride a wide variety of bikes in our community and.
So somebody today, I think it was Nick, putting down road base over here from Hill Street down a ways, is it Nick that was doing that? Okay,
It's pretty.
It was
Is
Nick
that
and
enough?
Nat.
was that
Nick
enough?
and Nat, yeah.
Okay. And I assume they were doing it for one or two reasons. Number one, they were getting ahead of the bus stop, of the bus stop, or that area was a mess and needed to have road base a long time ago, which is what I've always thought. And so two things were covered. It was number one, the bus stop.
Well, it was reason number one, but last night's vote voted the bus stop to be over by a temporary bus stop to be voted over by, we were there,
Called Terrace.
Colon Terrace Road. But
Oh, they voted for Cola Terrace.
they voted for Colon Terrace as a temporary spot. But Mayor had already thought it would be a great idea, but we need road improvements, and regardless, we're gonna have more than one bus stop anyways, so
Yeah, this is just,
maybe it's two birds with one stone, because
We
you're
know.
right, it really did need some improvements too right there, and so, yeah.
And
all the way, I mean, in fact, for a lot of places, but I kind of thought that was a little bit anticipated and the mayor favored that spot. I agree with you. I favored that as a temporary first spot because I think there's a lot of people that are working up in Springdale that live in town. And that's easier for
Yeah,
them.
And Ken,
Actually.
I think, yes, UDOT is doing this to us and the state's doing this to us and the county's doing this to us, but we get to say how that is used. And that's where we come in.
so I want to move on because there's other things that have
I hope
happened.
you're right.
I want to continue this discussion, so I'll be bringing this back, but in the meantime, maybe I could meet with you lovely people and we can find parts of code and go over that proposed application process. For now, so knowing that we need one. What do you think?
That would be
Yeah.
great.
And then we can write something up. I'm pretty sure that's gonna have some public hearing on that. And then we'll just keep your ears out for things. So there has been a couple of ordinances on the books for a while that I want to talk about. And we had set them aside because we're gonna do that overarching one. And then that's been set aside. And I think it's incumbent that we look at, the folder called Commercial Lodging and Uses. One of those ordinances is, simply to, remove the chart, I wish Larry had been here, and take it out of code and take it as superseding the chapter.
And I'm sorry.
This is removal of the uses chart in chapter 30. And we are in the folder. Commercial, oh, you go to October.
Okay, that's where I was.
Okay. And go to our work meeting.
Oh, okay, yeah, I did look at this.
Okay, and then they're very straightforward. This one just says, because this chart isn't always accurate and it supersedes the actual ordinance, which is our law. And all the allowed uses, prohibited uses, and conditional use permits uses are listed in the ordinance. This chart, although, the people applying for a permit might find it easy to read, it can be a source of misinformation. And we'd like to remove it from Lulu, not necessarily get rid of it, but just not have it be the law.
Well, I always feel that charts,
That's what we've been talking about.
I always feel that charts is a great handout. When someone comes in to see you to say, this is what we wanna do, you can hand them a chart. You know, you can hand them a piece of paper that has the chart on it, but that doesn't mean they can't study the code as well. I'm not against charts, I just don't like them in ordinances.
So when it comes to permits, applications, process, I'm literally creating something right now where it starts from A to Z.
Great.
I'm working with the town engineer, I'm going through things, I'm putting things in a bullet, getting up 3 different programs. I know we have one right now, but there's way more forward friendly, easy to use, forward facing.
Mhm.
So we can be both digital and I'm working through a lot of the how-tos and all of that. And go ahead, Erin.
So our concern was you can change the chart and not change the actual code. And our code says the chart supersedes the code. And so that we're trying to get rid of that confusion by removing the chart as part of the code. And if there's consensus that people still want it, great. But it's not the law. It reflects the law and should be updated to reflect the law.
Yeah.
So, and then the rest of this ordinance goes through every, section of code where it says, in cases of a conflict, chapter 30 verbiage is the deciding factor, and removes that. And, originally, we had it removed in 32, we had it removed in 34, so we're going to the different, zones. And we had it removed in 30, but we did not have it removed in 38. Now, 38 used to be open space, and it's closed, except for this paragraph. So this is, once again, just to clean up this part of the ordinance. So this one is going to go for public hearing. Yeah, chapter 48 is where it's revealed. And I'm gonna go back 40, 48. Yeah, it goes all the way through them. I'm gonna go back one more time and make sure it's correct, and then I will send it to Crystal by October 27th. Okay?
So. Apologize. I have some questions.
Sure.
These charts. When did they come about? Were these
So-
there, or is this the one that we talked about in the last years?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
and so what were we trying to do? Put charts in there to make it easier to understand?
yes, but what happened is, when you say the chart's verbiage supersedes the ordinance, when there's a conflict, all theoretically you have to do is change the chart and not the code. So by removing the chart, we're more true to our code. And I don't think it's very confusing in our code, because it's clear, it's like permitted, prohibited, and conditional. Go
I
ahead.
will say this, for people who look at things and are very visual people, the chart is going to take them to the next step. If they only have a place where it's just bullets and XYZs, and they're just gonna go, this is too complicated.
Correct.
But if they have this, and it doesn't have to, it could have a hyperlink that takes them right to it, or a chapter or this.
I don't mind the chart existing outside the law, but I don't want a chart to have supersede the law.
Okay, take it out of the.
We're not, yeah, just taking the chart out of the code.
Using the chart more as a check.
I agree, and Larry gave a really good argument as to that, but he's not here, I want to acknowledge his.
Right.
And so I'm for having it, just not part of the code.
Right, I agree.
That was our thing.
So let me restate it. So I agree with Shyla that they need something for people like me. Here, this is what you need to be aware of. Okay, ask me any questions you might have. And read the ordinance.
Exactly.
If you will, please.
Exactly.
Because they're going to be the law, not the chart. That's what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
Because how did we let this happen? Or has it been on the books a long time?
We can talk about that. I mean, and to do that, you said we have to go back to that part of the ordinance and go through the history at the bottom and its hyperlink. Yeah. I'd be more than happy to sit with you and do that.
Okay.
So the other one is something else we talked about doing. Let me show this one to you again. I think this is as far as if we can do the code. Not code enforcement. Compliance officer. That one's ready to go too. Oh, great. So it will go, my goal is to get these absolutely, absolutely get them done.
Right.
So this one is not quite done. I'm working on whereas it's still, okay?
I was just looking at that.
So it's removing, hotels
Right.
and gas stations from commercial and from commercial. Okay, and so what it's doing is going through chapter 40 and crossing them out, those two things, and moving them from conditional to prohibited.
But only in commercial, not in highway resort.
Right.
Just commercial.
Right.
So. So you're saying, let me restate that, you're saying that here, the ordinance allows for service station
And hotels,
commercial to be in the same location or the same property
No.
as a hotel?
no,
No.
it's taking out of commercial hotels and service stations.
And putting them,
They will be allowed in highway resort.
how about just a service station? Is that it? That's not a highway resort, if it's just a service station.
Yes. There's one going in. They've started.
No, I'm just saying, if I want to put a service station in,
Yeah,
it's not gonna be in highway resort zone, is it?
yes,
It's not a resort, it's a commercial business.
but it's.
It's a service.
Business that service.
Nobody's,
Highway resort.
nobody's staying there overnight.
And you can think about how many gas stations do you want in the world have 700 people.
Okay, you can enlighten me as to how that applies, but, I'm of course thinking that you're referring to our one gas station that's going in, and it's going to have commercial, it's gonna have lodging, resort
It
activities
is not a resort.
and
That's for
businesses and restaurants, it's all in one place.
Yeah,
It's zone commercial.
it's own
It's
commercial.
all zone commercial.
Correct.
And you're saying that it shouldn't be allowed to have a resort.
No, all this is saying is in hotels and service stations are going to be in highway resort zones.
Because,
Right now, they're allowed in highway resort and they're allowed in commercial.
As conditional uses.
Right. So we want to take service station and lodging out of the commercial zone. And just have them allowable as a conditional use in highway resort zones.
There's one going in the highway resort zone now.
I apologize for being confused as to why we're doing this and how it will make things better. How does this make it better?
It will allow a greater balance, of types of commercial development.
So you're thinking the service station belongs better in highway resort.
So
Yes.
if you allow everything everywhere, a concern of citizens has been everything is, we allow short-term rentals everywhere, and everybody wanted their short-term rental, and then everybody is like, oh my goodness, there's so many of these. And so it's an attempt to balance and open up opportunities for different types of businesses to come in, to better serve the needs of people who
So
live here.
give me an example that I can
Of what?
understand of how it allows for businesses to come in. How's it
Well,
promoting?
if the land isn't bought up by let's say a hotel developer, all right, that might allow some smaller cafes to come together, or might allow someone to build a place where you have areas where smaller businesses can lease part of that.
Retail
When
shops.
you remove, when you remove an idea, you have a square. And currently, right now, you can do anything in that square, hotel, motel, gas station, everything,
Short-term rentals.
everything, right? Just, let's just say, right now, you can do everything. And so to be able to give someone to think only inside that box and remove short-term stays, lodging. Now we have to remove that from that box, and now that box is only, you only can do that over here now. That, it's not being taken away, you can only do it over here, that's what this box looks at. And now in this box, that's closer to walkability and all the things everybody wants. And then now anyone who wants to purchase this box, they have to think only inside that box, which doesn't include lodging, which doesn't include gas stations, but it includes the cafe, it could be a bookstore, it could be WeWork stations, it could be a gym, a spa, a yoga, something that can be created where now big, large companies are gonna buy it and turn and burn, but now maybe we can find resources to invest in people that live here, work here, wanna be here. It creates more smaller, that gives people the opportunity.
And it makes it a
Yeah.
more attractive place for the tourist establishments we currently have. It gives them something to do at night.
And it also gives people the hope that I don't have to do short-term rental to survive in Virgin. I don't have to have a cafe that has three, turn and burners behind me. I can provide and make it on my own if it's.
Because I wish we had a zoning map in front of us, because the existing commercial property in Virgin would allow, the way the ordinance reads now, we could have hotel, 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 hotel,
And it
hotel.
doesn't get, and it will turn it.
And that's what we're trying to avoid.
You're trying, or this, excuse me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're trying to get it back to one spot in town. Like we had
One zone.
before, like where with the highway resort zone. was.
Correct. No, they'll still be commercial, starting at the green going east on both sides of the
Yeah.
highway, but it will be not the same thing all the way up and down.
Right.
It's not gonna be hotel, 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 landing, gas station, hotel, hotel, gas station, hotel, hotel. RV park, so, I mean, we have several. And I think most people in town are very good with a couple.
Can you give me an example of a community that's doing?
Serenity, look up Serenity. SERENVE. Just look what they did with their community and how they were, I think it's in Atlanta, Georgia.
Look at Daybreak.
It's
That's
in,
more Utah.
it's in Georgia,
Yes.
and thank you, if you turn that toward Georgia, it would help me a lot.
You got
I
it.
think it is also more suitable way to develop in this environment.
Can you spell that again?
A Serenity, SERENVE. Would you like it as an adjective? My spelling bee days.
You know, Ken, I feel like we are, a little out of balance as far as lodging, situations in Virgin.
Yeah.
We have hotel, we have a lot of glamping, a lot of that. We have a lot of Airbnbs, a lot of short-term rentals, and this is another tool in our toolbox to kind of get a little balance going, so we're not looking like hotel strip.
Yeah, Ken, look at Daybreak, that's another good one.
Daybreak.
Daybreak, you know?
Yeah, Daybreak, Utah, that's another good one.
So we're going to be thinking about this one, I was hoping to bring it to public hearing in November. I'll see if I can get my warehouses done. And
We will be having a ordinance coming down. It's a quick ordinance, it's very quick changes, it shouldn't be nothing, it's, just changing the zoning administrator, the code enforcement ordinance. All
Yeah.
it's taking out is crossing off zoning administrator.
that's the
putting
last,
on-
right, that's the last one I want to bring up.
Oh, okay.
I got the mayor's permission to do that in November, but that helped me here.
Okay, yeah.
So two things were sent back to us. One was, the subdivision. I'm gonna have to go back. What was the second one?
And closing the resort zone? Is that coming?
Yes, it is, because they don't want,
They
they want
just want you to delete.
delete,
resort zone.
delete. So we want to do that ASAP.
They don't want you closing, they want it.
Except
we have a resort zone property existing.
And I believe it was,
It will be grandfathered in. He said we will keep,
I believe it was rezoned, but.
yeah, yes, that's why we went along with that.
Oh,
So we're
okay,
gonna
I didn't-
verify that.
Yeah, and if not, we can rezone it to highway resort zone, which I highly, if it's not, if we
Right.
can't verify it, 'cause I
Right.
believe that's what was in the past. We can rezone it to highway
Okay.
resort zone and make it part of highway resort.
Okay, and since we don't have to have our docs done then.
And we need to just delete.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, so we might not need to change that ordinance
Okay.
much,
Just,
Say
it needs to
delete.
just delete,
and then
correct,
put before
yeah,
and after.
just delete it, just, we are removing it and deleting it, it's gone.
Okay,
That's the other one, and then the code enforcement one is, I mean, that's.
That
just-
one's in here too, and that's very straightforward, and, I'm good with, if we have room on the signs to put that in a public hearing.
We've got to, because we have a code enforcement officer,
Yes.
and that needs to be in.
okay.
Okay, so,
Ends that argument.
let's see, and did I do everything?
We touched on rules and procedure, but we need to
Yeah,
work on that, but everything else
like
under
there's rules and procedures, but there were all these little things, and I was thinking and going and talking to people and saying, we're so close on these things. Let's get these out of the way.
Absolutely, all
Right? And then, lighting will be our focus. I don't know if we'll get everything done, so, I hope you trust me with, prioritizing what goes on in November and what goes on in December. We currently do not have a work meeting in December, it would be the 18th. I am not opposed to having a work meeting in December, just because we have so much to do. And if I can commit to getting you out in 2 hours, that would be awesome. I'd like to put forward, and I can survive if you guys, I think I don't know, I can talk to Larry, but I was thinking it would be, and this is selfish, if we could have, and it would be more consistent, let's go with that. If we could, and I might have to run this by town council and the mayor, we could also start our public hearings at 5:30. That's a selfish reason for me, but I know at one point the mayor had a reason, and so I would need to talk to her about that. Would that be doable for you, Ken? Because you come to the party.
I worry more about the availability to the citizens.
Yeah. So.
Well, the only thing is, when we start our meetings at 5:30, we usually have things on the agenda before the public hearing, so I would assume that would start at around 6 o'clock anyway. So,
I mean, if you wanna be like Bergman and start their stuff like 4 or 3 o'clock,
no.
or any other time.
I don't wanna be anything like Eric.
Well, any other time in the city, they do it early.
Yeah. No, but I like the
It's
idea
very
because
different.
I'm every week, I'm like, okay, 5:30, 6 o'clock, and, you know, I go to the public hearing site to find out what time I'm supposed to be there.
Call mayor, and touch base with the mayor.
Really.
Yeah, of course. Say that again?
I like them early.
I hear, I mean, I understand what Ken's saying, because they use some, but I don't remember 5.
5, really? Was there-
I used to have it at, yeah,
Or virtual maybe.
no, we used to have them start at 5. But Ken said he could make it, that's why.
Right, but 5:30, is that doable? That's doable?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to do that, and I want to get our list of proposed ordinance. So there's nothing else from town council, am I correct? And that's the only 2 things we're getting.
3. Code enforcement,
Resort zone and subdivision.
and the subdivision.
Okay.
And how many can you fit on the sign?
Well,
Can you reduce the font a little bit?
I mean, that's already small as it is. You gotta walk up the side, but,
And so I'm gonna have to talk to the mayor about what we want on.
So 3.
Richmond.
so you're thinking 3, and then we're thinking hopefully the sign ordinance,
Hopefully.
and what is the other one we're thinking?
The.
Division of
uses-
land.
Uses of, division of land has to be. And then the uses chart, commercial,
We're talking 6 ordinances?
oh, we could be up to 7. I did get an okay for code to be in December.
I highly prize that, you know,
So,
but
let's
just
make,
because our code enforcement officer is like.
yeah, let's
already
make
coming
a,
down with that.
let's make a,
I can fit 6. We
okay.
did make this strip longer, I could probably fit 6, because I could go 2, 2, and 2.
So
So if
I'm-
you make it an even number, I
I'm
could do
gonna
6.
list,
Could we do 6?
I'm gonna list everything. That is a potential. And then that will,
Well, we also gotta see what we get back to in time.
yeah, because I don't know. You know, and then we have to just make a decision, which is,
We know we're gonna get, we know we're all getting 3 back in time, because we'll get the subdivision ordinance.
that is a must, that's
Yes.
our highest priority item.
The code enforcement ordinance already have, and then
Code enforcement.
the other one
is,
you need to fix. Delete,
The whereases,
the deleting the
oh, the
resort
resort
zone,
zone.
you don't need to fix that. So change it to delete. Delete.
Code. Subdivision code, sign.
And then,
I know Val really wants to sign ordinance to get done, but
It would be great, but I mean,
I'm comfortable if it is in December.
December, yeah.
But December is our lighting and sign.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
You know,
yeah,
I'm comfortable with that, so. Because these other ones, I think they had. Immediate impact, I mean, the sign does too, and the lighting does too, but I just wanna do them right. You know, and then, and then we'll have to figure out where Larry's is gonna be, does it need another public hearing? And that can be, might have to be, he wants that to be November, but it might have to be a December.
I think the attorney wanted to look at that.
I think because of those things, and once again, I just want it to work without causing more headaches for everyone.
So, right, yeah, and I don't know if Riker's gonna have that all done,
Yeah,
with
so
and
we'll-
the attorney having Kim.
I'm thinking on these
So that might be a December one with those 2, so that might be 3.
If it's okay, well, he's had an input on the sign ordinance, but there's still that one question I have. And he would know best how to improve that in the ordinance. Let me get it back, I'll see what Riker says. So that we're just having Heath look at one section.
Do you wanna send your question over to me, and I can see if I can work on it to the back end
There,
between all of them, between the 3?
it's the things, it's the same questions I gave to Riker.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and it's basically like, how do I meld that with an original billboard into this one?
Got you. Oh, okay. Well, right for that one too, but yeah,
Because it could be very simple, because it is in a certain part of our code, but we have to remember everything and all of that.
And didn't that come down from the state anyway?
But it's the standalone,
Right,
that is sitting
Right,
in our
right.
sign. Current sign ordinance,
yeah,
is everything in there included in the sign ordinance?
yeah.
So we're being fair to people and, not being misleading. I'm done.
okay, I move we adjourn our work meeting.
I second.
Motion, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Aye. Larry's in here. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. We'll wait till this is off.